What's up, hobby friends? In this video, I'm going to be teaching you a simple technique to make these great looking rock formation terrain pieces. For our main building material, we're going to be using pink insulation foam, and you can get this at your local home hardware store. I'm using 1/2-inch sheets for this, but you can get away with the thicker 1-inch pink insulation foam sheets. The exact thickness doesn't matter. I prefer the thinner ones because I can layer a bit more and create greater texture in the spiral. We're also going to need a box cutter to do all the cuts in our foam, and we're going to be using wood or carpenter's glue, but you can use PVA glue as well to stick all the foam sheets together. When we make our cuts into the foam, it does get a little messy, and so to help loosen some of the bits and pieces, I do have an old brush on hand to make it a little easier, but you can use your fingers instead. So the first thing we want to do is we want to take our insulation foam and we want to cut it into a variety of shapes and sizes, mostly squares and rectangles, that we can then layer to create our terrain piece shape. Having a bit of variety in the shapes allows you to create these interesting looking spires and terrain forms. I do recommend that you bevel off or round the corners to create more of a round shape for all of your layers. You can get away with squaring them or leaving them as corners. It's just more work when you go to do your cutting. Once you have a large number of these squares cut out, stack them up together however you like, glue them together, and let them set. For a couple of days, you want the wood glue to fully cure before you start cutting into the foam. Once we have our basic shape and all the glue is fully dry, we're going to take our box cutter and we're going to start making a lot of horizontal cuts mostly, but you can vary the angle just across the foam, going around the entire piece. You want your cuts to be anywhere from 1/2 inch to 1 inch deep because we want to tear apart large chunks. The deeper you make the cuts, the more interesting the textures become as we start pulling away chunks of the foam on the surface. To help break up the pieces, we are also going to do a whole bunch of diagonal cuts across the entire piece. I like to keep these diagonal cuts relatively consistent, just to help reinforce the direction that the wind and the weather and the rain has just constantly eroded the rock away to create the texture that we're seeing. Once we've got all of our horizontal and diagonal cuts in, we're going to take our box cutter, we're going to extend the blade to a fairly decent length, and we're just going to start carving away at the foam. Using these cuts, we're just going to dig in with the blade and we're essentially going to tear out huge pieces of the surface foam to create this texture. You can use your fingers as well, but I find that using the box cutter and sort of just having at it, freeform creates some really cool, very quick, very rough textures that's not very difficult to achieve. I tried using my fingers at the start. You get more control in how you're pulling the pieces away, but it does take much longer and it is much more tiresome. And we're just going to work our way around the entire piece, texturing as we go and sort of carving away to break up and hide our layers of foam sheets that we've glued together. And really what we're looking to do is, one, create an interesting variety of textures. We don't want the foam layers to all be uniform at the same depth. We want to create sort of this in and out undulation on the surface. And we're also carving away to help hide, as I mentioned, the layers of our foam sheets that we've glued together. And really that's it. We're just going to keep carving away on the entire piece until we've gone around the entire surface and we're happy with the way it looks. As we're carving away, you're going to find that you might have to loosen some of these bits, and that's where having this old brush comes in handy. We're just going to brush away the surface as we go. And once we're done carving it up, we're ready for painting. And that's pretty much it. These terrain pieces are very simple and very effective to make. And I think once we get them painted, they're going to look very cool and very convincing as part of our desert terrain board. If you enjoyed the video, give it a like, and don't forget to subscribe for more awesome weekly content. You can also follow my Instagram at SirJohnTheHo for daily updates on my hobby projects. Until next time, happy hobbying.